right. Well, welcome. My name is Kelly Watson, and I am managing partner of Orange Grove Consulting, which is a organizational development, organizational behavior consultancy. We do learning and development, and we do diversity, equity, and inclusion work, lots of assessments, things like that. So that's me, Christine.
Hello, my name is Christine, and I have a background in organization, operations, and client management, and with the SVP with a large bank.
Arthur.
Hi, I'm a professor here. Been around 43 years I've been here, and I teach business law primarily, but also employment law, sustainability, things like that.
I'm Lisa Daggett Cummins. I am a director of fundraising for a charitable organization that provides mental health and dental care to underserved and disenfranchised children, teens, and young adults. I'm also part of the executive team at my company. So, hello.
Very nice to meet you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so I'm just going to read this preamble so that we're all on the same page, but essentially in this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity and you're assigning one to us. Please make sure everyone knows who you are and who they are before you begin. You'll have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend a solution that passes muster on all three counts. During this time, you will be uninterrupted. When you are finished, we will ask you questions for about 10 to 15 minutes. And during that Q&A, you will stay in character and we will stay in character. And then after the Q&A, you can relax and we will give you feedback outside of the role playing. All right? You good with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do stay within the blue lines. That's the only other thing we ask. All right. Let me make sure I have my clock set here. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Hello, Board of Blue Triton. We thank you for trusting Redesigning the Future consulting firm as we advise you on your Ice Mountain brand water bottle for sustainable redesign.
Now, before we start, I'd like to introduce you guys to the team. My name is Rigoberto Morales, and I'll be your lead ethical analyst.
I'm Veronica Diaz, and I'm the lead financial and legal analyst.
And I'm Nisha Mia, the lead strategy and research analyst. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's make sure we cover all the bases of our presentation. We'll first start off with the philosophy of how our consulting firm will assess your sustainability strategy. We'll then go into assessing your pre-existing strategy and then identifying where the problem lies. We'll then go into our solution with a tangible example. We'll then go into the three main dimensions, the financial, legal, and ethical. We'll then briefly conclude with a strategy assessment and then open the floor to any line of questioning or concerns.
Our philosophy. At RTF Consulting, we are dedicated to creating meaningful environmental change. We provide our clients with simple sustainability solutions that not only work with, but work to enhance your pre-existing sustainability strategies. Our presentation today is geared towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 12, ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns. My colleague Nisha will begin our presentation with a company analysis.
Thank you, Veronica. The first step of our basic philosophy is assessing your pre-existing strategy. As we know, Blue Triton monitors a wide variety of nationwide brands, and our main focus here today will be on Ice Mountain. So we decided to go with a bottomed-out approach to assess your commitment to sustainability. From Blue Triton's mission and vision, it's clear that you guys are not only committed to sustainability, but devote a passion to it. You're willing to endure any trials and tribulations and have a 2050 goal to make sure nearly 50% of all your plastic water bottles are repurposed. We then go on to the second tier, which is your nationwide brands. And this is more than evident with your 1-for-1 or Made Better policy, which ensures that you're educating consumers on the importance of recycling single-use plastic goods. We then go on to our main topic of interest, which is Ice Mountain. And again, through their mission and vision, this commitment to sustainability is easily reciprocated and more than evident. And this is more than evident with their partnerships. Their strongest partnership being howtorecycle.org, which ensures to carry that importance and education on how to recycle to consumers. The next slide will demonstrate the strengths of your pre-existing strategy before we identify the problem. The first strength is your undeniable passion. This passion for sustainability is demonstrated through your community engagement, through your objectives, and your willingness to pool resources into fulfilling your objectives. The next strength is your marketability. As we can see from partnerships like howtorecycle.org and also your campaigns visible on your bottles, it's clear that you want to make sure consumers not only know how to recycle, but ensure they know why they should recycle. The last strength is continuous improvement, and this is an integral part of any business, but especially in those that want to engage in corporate social responsibility, because as we all know, sustainability is no easy feat. And in order to endure it to its fullest capacity, you have to be willing to make constant improvements. While these are great strengths, our group found a key problem, and that deals with the recycling process itself. To better understand this issue, let's consider the graphic on this next slide, where we divide the issue into its two main layers. The first layer is the outside layer, aka what we can see on the surface level. The statistics show that 62% of all American households recycle their single-use plastic water bottles. While this is a high number, the United States Department for Recycling has demonstrated that only 20% of it can actually endure the recycling process to its full capacity for it to be repurposed. This has led 38 billion plastic water bottles into landfills annually. So what's the root of the problem? Plastic water bottles are made out of a material called rPET. And in order for the recycling process to be endured, that rPET must be pure. However, it's not. And the culprit is the plastic film label, which contains two contaminants, polymers and an adhesive backing, both of which are the number one reasons as to why the recycling process cannot be fulfilled. Now, to better understand what the recycling process should look like versus what it's actually looking like, let's consider the next two slides. This slide shows what it is meant to look like. We start off with the production of the bottle, and then we go on to appropriately educating consumers on how to recycle. We then include that the rPET is pure in this scenario, and because it is pure, the material can be repurposed, fulfilling an objective such as your 2050 goal of ensuring nearly 50% of your bottles are repurposed. We then go on to the repurposing being effective, and then the bottles are able to be produced, repurposed, and consumers are left feeling good that they're being eco-conscious. However, because of that gap we identified, the next slide showcases what the strategy actually looks like. Two closed-loop systems, production-consumption, with a complete elimination of the repurposing process because the rPET has been contaminated. Again, because of those two main contaminants, polymers and adhesives from the plastic film label. What's our solution? To better understand that, as well as the ethical dimension of our presentation, I will now ask you to divert your attention to my colleague Rico.
Thank you, Nisha. So in our solution, we will be redesigning the production process for the water bottles. We will have new injection molds with large and small artwork, including the technology of laser etching for information that cannot be set in molds. Onto our ethical implications. If the water bottle isn't completely recycled, along with the film, they turn into waste, and that waste goes into landfills. In fact, research shows over 86% of landfills are plastic. And once these landfills overfill, they spill over and make an even bigger issue. Plastic in the water. Plastic in the water is the second largest contributor to world pollution, with 12% of that being water bottles. World Economic Forum has shown that 8 million tons of ocean is dumped annually into the water, and that also affects sea life. It kills over 1 million species of sea life and outnumbers aquatic life 7-1.
I will now begin with the implementation portion of our presentation.
So continuing my ethical implications slide. Plastic water bottles are made from materials that are both strong and durable. These make them a lot harder to decompose naturally, and they take over 1,000 to 400,000 years to naturally decompose. Now, I'm going to pass over the floor to Veronica.
Now I will begin with the implementation portion of our presentation. Thank you, Rigo. So before we get into the financial and legal dimensions, we wanted to provide you all with a brief visual so you can better understand what it is we are trying to achieve here, as well as how the numbers correlate. On the left, you have the injection molds. In the production process, the plastic tubing is inserted into these molds and blown into the bottle shape. What we're suggesting is that these molds be altered, which you can see signified in the red circles here. We will put engravings in the mold themselves. Therefore, when the plastic tubing is now inserted into the injection mold and blown into the bottle shape, information that was previously on your plastic film label will now come across on your bottle, similar to how Braille is. On the right, you have our laser etching systems. These are actually already used in your production process to laser etch information on the bottle, such as your serial number and your expiration date. But we're suggesting that you purchase more of these systems. As with label elimination, more information will need to be laser etched onto your bottles. Providing our label information breakdown. As for what information on your label will need to be put into the molds themselves versus what needs to be laser etched. For the mold engravings, this will include things like your Ice Mountain logo, your 1-for-1 campaign, the recyclability contents, as well as your manufacturer, packer, and distributor information. As for the laser etching, this will be things like your QR code, your 1-800 number, the certification number, as well as the individual barcodes. And a great thing about this we found when going through the contents of your label, all of the information that needs to be laser etched on your bottles is actually on the back half of the label. So with concerns of production becoming less efficient or increasing production time, this is not a worry here. The bottle can simply run down the production line as it does already, and the information can be rapidly laser etched onto the back of each bottle. Getting into the financials now, you're looking at our proposed budget. On the first line, we have the new bottle mold. We found these cost commonly around $10,000, and we're suggesting a 200 cavity machine. This puts you at a total cost of $2 million for the new bottle mold purchase. Next, we have the laser etching systems, which we also found cost commonly around $10,000, and we're suggesting purchasing 12 more of these systems, putting you at a total cost of $120,000 for the laser etching systems. Now, the combination of the new bottle mold and laser etching system purchase, you're looking at a total investment of $2.12 million for our proposed solution. Getting into what this $2.12 million investment can get your company in benefits. Ice Mountain produces approximately 2.26 billion bottles every year. As for the label costs, this can range anywhere between half a penny to a penny, but we ran our calculations on the lower end for a more conservative approach to savings. If you take the annual production against the label cost, you're looking at a total savings of $11.3 million after a label elimination annually. We took our calculations a step further to include the simple depreciation of the machinery, as you can see in the graphs on my left. The annual depreciation rate for the laser etching systems is $24,000. As for the new bottle molds, the annual depreciation rate is $400,000. Taking the depreciation of the machinery out of our original projected savings of $11.3 million, you're looking at a new annual total savings of $10.9 million after label elimination. With consideration that your initial investment was roughly $2 million and your projected annual savings is $10.9 million, this provides that our proposed solution gives your company an unbelievable return on investment. On to even more benefits. Not only does our proposed solution provide your company with an unbelievable return on investment, but it also can significantly increase your company's market value. Nestle sold Ice Mountain to One Rock Capital Partners, a private equity firm. Due to One Rock not being public, we decided to take a range of similar diversified companies within your industry to assess the net value. Investors will do this by taking the price-to-earning ratios we provide here and multiplying it against our projected savings of $10.9 million to come to the conclusion that your firm can see a market value increase ranging from $241 to $273 million. That is a significant increase in your net value. After hearing about these great benefits, I'm sure you're curious what the possible risks can be. Our strategy analyst, Nisha, brought a great point to the table: brand recognition. By removing the labels on your bottles, will your product be negatively impacted by consumer brand recognition? When discussing this further, we came to the conclusion that brand recognition can actually be increased. How? If you consider no other major competitor in the water bottle industry has taken this innovative step we're proposing today, your product will be the only one in the market, sitting on a shelf amongst your varying competitors without a label, ultimately drawing consumers' eyes more to your product versus your competitors. Into the legal dimensions. The issue of the recyclability of your product was not necessarily brought about by any specific laws or regulations. It is rather a matter of more sustainable consumption and production patterns. Although when researching the legal aspects, we were posed with a question: whether removing the labels on your bottles will still allow your product to fall within FDA guidelines. We found under FDA Title 21, Section 165.110, that in summary, the FDA only requires label information on your product to include things like your manufacturer, your packer and distributor, as well as any other necessary information consumers may need to contact your firm regarding questions they may have about your product. As you saw previously in the label information breakdown, all of this information required by the FDA can be included in our solution using the mold engravings and laser etching systems. Therefore, our proposed solution is completely legally compliant. On to more pressing matters. On the left here, what you're looking at is Sprite's recently launched Naked for Now campaign. This campaign was launched in January of this year. They're actually taking this innovative step we're proposing to you today, but it is only occurring in the UK and other European countries. It has not made its way into the US yet, where your product resides. If anything, this emphasizes even more the need to take this innovative step. As I said previously, no other competitor in the water bottle industry has taken this step of label elimination. So the question is, would you rather be a leader like Sprite or have to fall in line later on? On the right, you have a class action, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Your firm has recently been served with a class action regarding microplastics in your water bottles. Although our proposed solution of label elimination cannot turn the clocks on this class action, it can most definitely prevent it from occurring again in the future. As both Rigo and Nisha have discussed, the plastic film label on your water bottles promotes a harsh contaminant to the recycling stream, allowing for these microplastics to enter the stream, contaminate your product, and you end up in a situation like this class action here. I will now hand it off to Rigo and Nisha for the strategy analysis.
In our strategy, we found that the two biggest strengths of our strategy were both the green marketability that Blue Trident already has implemented and the cost effectiveness and time effectiveness of the new production model. And the weakness would be all the resources that would be diverted to the new production process.
The two primary opportunities, one of which Veronica has already mentioned, is product differentiation. By ensuring your product is the only one on the shelves without a label, you're appealing to consumers, more consumers becoming eco-conscious, that your company is not only willing to say it's committed to sustainability, but taking that step to full sending it. The next opportunity is new partnerships. Ice Mountain already has a partnership with howtorecycle.org, but imagine the possibilities of when you take that innovative step to sustainability, what new partnerships that could open and meaningful connections. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what's the threat of implementing this strategy? Upon our assessment, we found that there's a low impact risk, and it's simply that this strategy hasn't been implemented anywhere in the States. This means you might endure setbacks or hurdles which are challenging to navigate at first, and it might require an initial pooling of resources. Now, we've presented you with a bunch of information. How can we get you to convince us? How can we convince you to implement this strategy? we want to dwindle it down to 3 main objectives. The first objective is that the issue of plastic pollution is not going anywhere. In the United States alone, 1,000 plastic water bottles are opened, not every minute, every second. According to the United States beverage industry, plastic water bottles have outnumbered soft beverages consistently over the past 7 years. These metrics show that plastic water bottle consumption will continue to be on the rise. The next reason why you should implement this strategy is that there's a growing market. Consumers are becoming more eco-conscious, and they're demanding companies to make real change, not just saying they will. In fact, 83% of consumers are demanding companies to take this innovative step. The last reason why you should implement this strategy is that it's too saturated. Too many companies are greenwashing. In fact, over 50% have admitted to doing so. This means that companies are saying they're going to take innovative steps and even marketing it. But the tangibility is not quite there.
The time to act is now. Would you rather be a part of the problem or a part of the solution? As for the business factors, what we're proposing to you today is a cost-reducing production method. You saw the numbers. This promotes an unbelievable return on investment and can also significantly increase your production, your market value. Next, product differentiation. As Nisha and I have covered, label elimination can increase your brand recognition and promote product differentiation. And lastly, our proposed solution is a low impact risk. You're already familiar with the injection molds. You're already familiar with the laser etching systems. What we're proposing to you today is just slightly altering both of these metrics to achieve our simple, sustainable solution of label elimination.
Some of the impact factors of our strategy include the overall reduction of plastic waste that the company will make during production, the growth of our PET recyclability for more uses than just water bottles, and it will help Blue Trident reach its 2050 recyclability goal as stated on its website.
At RTF, we know that your company is dedicated to its positive environmental impact. You already have a strong pre-existing sustainability strategy, so why not make it reach its fullest potential? With our simple solution of sustainable redesign, we can ensure that Ice Mountain becomes plastic pollution changemakers and will see a better future in no time. And as promised earlier, we'll now open the floor to any line of questioning and concerns. We thank you again for trusting us with our expertise today.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, thank you for your presentation and for pointing out, the sustainability benefits of this. I guess my first question is, what ethical issue does this solution address?
This would be SDG 12.
Yes, so the ethical issue that this is addressing is geared towards, at the beginning of our presentation, we mentioned the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 12, ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns. So by altering your production, this addresses the ethical implication of plastic waste. And plastic waste is the second biggest contributor to pollution globally. So by altering your metrics just the slightest amount in production, you are able to significantly have a more sustainable approach, reduce waste, and overall be a great contributor to the environment.
Well, and I love that you brought up that the problem isn't the plastic, it's the waste part. But is it unethical for me to make a recycled bottle if it's not really the problem? Like, we've kind of done our piece. I feel like the recyclers, they're the ones that are motivated to fix this label issue because they're the ones that can't get the label off or whatever. So, are we really creating harm?
Yes, that's a great question, and actually our group discussed that. We found that the source of the problem is not in a lack of recycling, because yes, it is true that consumers can take off the plastic film label. There's actually still residue from that adhesive backing, and it still contaminates that rPET, which needs to be pure. And again, because 62% of all American households do recycle, we should be seeing a decrease in plastic waste. But in fact, it's actually exponentially increasing. So we decided to attack the source of the problem by eliminating the plastic film label, which again is cost effective and not a complicated solution.
Okay, and can you tell me, because you talked about how taking off the label takes cost out, and I saw your depreciation and whatnot for the investment in the labeling, but there's probably ongoing maintenance, things like that. What are we adding back to the cost per bottle? Do you have a per bottle cost for the laser etching piece?
Yes, we can go back.
Because that chart that said per bottle cost really was talking about the CapEx, so.
Yes, so you're asking the total cost for the laser etching portion
Yeah,
of
because
the
you
bottle?
took off the label cost at
Yes.
0.005 to 0.01. What do we add back for the laser per bottle?
There's not going to be a significant additional cost, seeing as you already use laser etching in your production process. So this is simply altering the coating in the laser etching machine to add the extra information to put on the back half of the bottle.
Ah, that was the connection I was missing. Okay, so you're saying there's no additional cost at all to laser etch?
The only additional cost would be purchasing the actual machinery itself, because we feel that with more information needing to be laser etched onto the bottle, you would likely need more laser etching systems. And actually, to add to your point, by removing the label portion in the production process, having to actually shrink wrap the label on, you're decreasing production time because you completely take that step out of your production line. So any additional time that could be added for additional laser etching systems wouldn't be anything compared to removing the whole process itself from the label portion.
Okay, so you just said we have to buy more machines because
Correct.
you're going to need more. So that's going to be, do you know what the per bottle cost of that is?
The per bottle cost
Of adding the new machines?
we just costed it out at $10,000. I would have to get back to you with the numbers of the per bottle cost.
2.26 billion bottles, is that basically what you're saying? That for that 10K, I can cover 2.26 billion bottles with
Correct.
laser etch?
Well, it's a total of $120,000 because we're suggesting purchasing 12 more
right.
systems, so it would be the
Okay, so
120
120K,
against.
2.26.
Correct.
Billion. Okay. All right, Christine.
Thank you, guys. Great information, and I did have questions about the 11.3 million, but I think you answered them with her questions. My question that I needed a little more clarity on was the ethics, but thank you for answering that, and also I'm still a little bit confused on the more branding, and I think the main emphasis was that we'll be the only one without a label, but how long would that last, before other follow suit? So I'm no longer the only one. And so I didn't really quite connect how we would get better branding by removing the label.
Correct. That's a great point. And we also discussed that is, yes, as you saw in Sprite's recently launched Naked for Now campaign, people are taking this step, but as I mentioned, it has not made its way into the water bottle industry yet. If you guys were to take this step, you would be the first ones. And yes, as you mentioned, other people could continue to take this step, but by being the first ones, you have the ability to set the standard. Other companies aren't going to fall in line after and make their products the exact same to yours. So you have the unique opportunity to be the first ones in this process. So yes, if another company were to promote or go through the label elimination process and promote it, likely their product that they put out there after yours won't look anything like yours. They'll have to put their own spin on it to avoid decreasing their own brand recognition against your product.
Good point. Okay. Great. I think that covers my questions in addition.
I have two questions. So I guess the first question is, you are great at explaining to me as a board member how well we're doing. And I like that. I think we're doing really well too. Reputationally, I feel like our company is doing well. But what is you're so passionate, and I feel like we're doing so well. What's the implication to us if we don't do this? What are the ethical implications if we decide not to do this?
Absolutely. And so again, as Veronica emphasized, I'm going to tie this into the previous question of brand recognition. In order to be a leader in the sustainability movement, and again, I'm sure as your company in the water bottle industry, you've seen a lot of your competitors try to take initiatives, recycling campaigns, doing community engagement projects, and setting objectives. These are great initiatives, but they're saturated. Companies are doing the same objectives over and over. And when we see repetition, consumers can recognize that. And consumers can see that companies are latching onto one another and piggybacking. By taking that step, by eliminating the plastic film label, you've deviated from the norm. And by deviating from the norm, you're not only appealing to consumers, again, a growing market of them, that want more eco-conscious objectives, you're ensuring that you're taking a tangible measure. You're not just setting objectives for the sake of objectives. You're setting them for attacking the root of the problem being those contaminants.
Okay, I have one more question. Which the branding leads me to another question. I know that the focus here is on financial, legal, and ethical, but from a financial standpoint, have you looked at the cost of what it would cost our organization to completely do a rebrand? Because what you're telling me is that we would be the first to do this, so there's some marketing benefits of doing that, but it's also a little scary in our industry. So did you look at what the cost would be to completely rebrand, to do another marketing campaign? And obviously we would want to take advantage of the fact that ethically we're doing something really great, and we're taking a next step there too.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know financials is more Veronica, so I'll let her handle the financial aspect of your question, but we handled the SWOT analysis, and I want to touch on one of our strengths. Ice Mountain's strength is your pre-existing green marketability. You already have a substantial strong suit in your green marketability, which means that you showcase to consumers you're not only committed to recycling, but you're actually committed to educating consumers, which is a really important facet because that requires a lot of resources. You're willing to go through an entire group of consumers, all different demographics, populations, and saying, hey, we want all of you to recycle. And again, the amount of resources that takes, you already have that in the pool. So you don't need to deviate, you don't need to create extra resources. That's why we listed it as the first strength in the SWOT analysis. And to cover the financial portion of your question, I'll take it over to Veronica.
So as for how to market what we're proposing to you today, multimedia platforms such as social media and different platforms you are already using is the biggest way to reach consumers in this generation. So all you need to do is just simply stick with the strategy you're already using. You have different social media platforms and you can put this campaign out there as Sprite has. Sprite simply, they made a post and it spread like rapid fire. It reached the US within no time, and this is only going on in the UK and other European countries, as well as news articles and other local communities. You're a Michigan-based company, will pick this up rapidly. And word of mouth is the best way for marketing. So I don't think the financials.
Less about the what and less about the how and more about the how much. So just wondered if there was any thought about any kind of cost estimates of what it might cost us to rebrand, and what we obviously don't want to spend more than we're going to take in. So that was just my second question.
Absolutely. For the cost of the rebranding, we don't believe it to be a significant cost. You would have to look back at the budget and get those numbers to you. But it would not affect your company significantly financially, especially with your projected savings to be almost $11 million.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you're essentially saying we're going to use the same pipeline that we use to do the
Absolutely.
recycling training. Then, yeah, all right, that's legitimate. So, okay, great. Well, now you can relax.
Hi.
Oh, sorry, Arthur.
I want to continue with this line. I don't think it's quite that simple.
Okay.
Because if I go in to get water right now, or soda, whatever it is, I see all the beautiful colors coming at me. Coke, I know what that color is, or Pepsi, whatever. And now I see something that's blank. at least on first sight.
Mhm.
And if I don't have a really good marketing strategy, people are going to go to what they're accustomed to. And if you look at the beautiful pictures you had before, ours, I like our label. It's really nice, it's colorful. And you're asking us to take a major risk, which leads me to another question. I didn't see in here any type of consumer strategies that you've had, any groups that you've advertised, that you asked them how they would respond. Have we done any testing or things like that that says to us it is worth your while to risk changing what has worked for you? And I get that we want to do this, but not to risk the company. And that's what you're really asking us to do. So have you had a chance to talk to consumers, and what's that been like?
Yes, I'm actually so happy you brought that up. So to go back to the pressing matters slide, if we can go back to that slide right here. Before we get to that slide, if we can remember the poster that we saw, we can see that there's a campaign on the poster, Naked for Now.
Right.
And I guess I will answer your second question before your first. So the question here was, I guess I'll merge the two. You want to go into a store as a consumer and you are appealed by all the labels, and that appeals to you as a consumer. So why would you be gravitated towards a label-less bottle? It's completely deviating from the norm. But I want to beg the question. You are one consumer in a non-shifting demographic. 83% of consumers are demanding companies to make a change. And yes, you might not be appealed to the label-less finish, but how are we certain that that growing demographic of eco-conscious consumers won't be appealed by that label-less finish? Because this movement is not about aesthetics, it's about tangibility. Optics are not in the question of this demographic, it's about a solution, and a solution does not care for aesthetics. So yes, while aesthetics are important, I would say consumers and growing consumers are more conscious about the effects of the production rather than how it looks. Now, to answer your second question, this poster right here, it actually went viral on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok and Instagram marketing are extremely cost effective. Even small businesses are able to market very well on TikTok and Instagram. Yes, some costs might be higher for some, but generally getting marketing boosted on TikTok and Instagram platforms are not difficult, especially because Ice Mountain already has a strong presence in the Midwest. Very strong presence. And so because of that presence, they're able to gain traction on social media fairly easily. And by gaining traction, you're again tying back into the first answer, aligning with that shifting demographic. Also primarily comprised of young consumers. And who are the main audience on social media? Young consumers. So I hope that answers your question, but you did propose a good complication.
Let me push a little bit.
Actually,
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Remember when I was younger, Sprite had an all green bottle.
Yeah.
And they went to a clear and green bottle. So adding to the aesthetics of it, having the same little top that we had, plus a new packaging, I think would be a better look for us.
Interesting. Yeah. I am if you go to the slide of when you go into the line, you see all the different colors. There we go. Back. Okay. So I am curious because I look at what our competitors are doing. They're bigger, Pepsi, Coke, and I want to say Dr. Pepper. They've had commercials that their bottles are now recyclable. They spent a lot of money trying to do that. So they have intentionally not changed the colors to attract people. So I'm questioning why if they're doing their advertising effectively, which they have because they have more money than we do, will we be going against them? We're claiming that they have recyclable bottles.
That is a very great point. And as Nisha stated before, companies can claim things all if they want, but when we actually sat down and did the research on plastic themselves, the reason, as Rigo mentioned, that Sprite, and I don't want to get off topic here just as an example, that Sprite changed their clear bottle plastic is it was with the clear top now in some of the bottles. It's difficult when you get into the color and adding it into the recycling stream to achieve the same color and keep it consistent. Now, if you consider Coke and most other Sprite products, they have a clear bottle, but they still have a colored cap. So yes, they may say that they're 100% recyclable or that their bottles are recyclable, but if you actually look into the facts of it, their bottles really aren't recyclable, because when you put a clear bottle with a colored cap into the recycling stream, red and clear, I'm not sure you would get the same clear bottle that you're achieving for there. So I would argue that their bottles are actually not recyclable. And yours being a clear bottle with a clear cap would be 100% recyclable after label elimination.
I like that answer. I just think it means that we have to do a better job marketing.
Absolutely.
And maybe even attacking them. And therefore, I would like to have a budget as to what that might be.
Yes.
That's the only thing I'm missing.
We can
So
get
it's
that to
more
you, no
realistic,
problem.
That's all.
Thank
Okay.
you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Am I allowed one more question?
Sure.
So, one of the things, one of the things that I've noticed lately in the water market, and the water market is very broad. So I think it addresses the needs of many different target audiences at many different age ranges and demographics. But one of the things that I've seen is the new aluminum can bottle, or aluminum bottle. And I kind of like it. And I know Dasani does it, which is one of our competitors, and there's some small social enterprises in the community that does it. It hasn't gotten as big as plastic yet, but have you thought about that as an alternative rather than just the label? Have you looked at other bottling opportunities for us?
We have actually, and how we came to the plastic film label was that we wanted to see your company benefit. And so we didn't want to propose a solution that deviated from what you already have too far. Our philosophy is we want to work with what you have pre-existing. Your pre-existing sustainability strategy is really strong. By going aluminum, that would require a substantially higher production cost, perhaps, marketing as well. By working with what you already have, we ensure to provide a simple solution to sustainability.
Absolutely, especially with the aluminum bottles. That is a very labor-intensive production process, working with aluminum as a raw material. And the cost of aluminum as a raw material is significantly higher than the plastic that you are currently using. So it would without a doubt increase production costs, labor costs, and all other sorts.
Thank you.
All right.
That was
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, next step.
Okay, so now next step, we can move on to feedback. So I'll start. I want to say excellent intro. I love that you established our role in the first sentence, and that you told us, you provided an agenda, and you told us exactly what to expect. That helps ground us so that we're not, spending the first 5 minutes figuring out what it is you're doing. So excellent. And you got to the problem that we had within 4 minutes, which was great as well. And that is really that this recycling industry is under capturing the waste because of this contamination. Now, I do think that you've got an interesting problem when you are asking producers to take responsibility for the downstream effects of what they're doing. And I think it's a very ethical thing for them to do, but I think it's a hard thing to do for all the business reasons that I think came out in the Q&A. And that is that, you're asking a producer that feels like they have addressed the recyclability issue to change and to add cost, because any way you look at it, whether it's in marketing cost or bottle cost or whatever, if it was cheaper, they would do it, right, without question. So it isn't cheaper because when you have to wrap in all these other things. So, but you're asking them to do something that they're not necessarily going to get perceived for the value, because the value is a downstream. There's another business and an industry that's sort of has this problem really, and that is that the recycling industry has to figure out how to get the adhesives off and how to capture more. And they have a market for that, so they are motivated to do it. I'm not saying it's not our responsibility as a producer, but I think that's the challenge that you're up against here, is trying to convince this producer that they have this responsibility down here. I think that the legal part could have been a little more focused on that, because I do think that and the reason it's happening in Europe and not here is not because the European consumer
More regulations.
is willing to pay more, it's because they have more regulation.
Absolutely.
And so showing that is a risk and that it's coming, because I think it is coming, I think is a big piece of it. You talked about a lawsuit about the class action, but I don't think that lawsuit is about recycled materials ending up in wastewater, if I'm right. I think what it is that people are getting microplastics from consuming the beverage that's in the bottle. And so I don't know that the lawsuit in and of itself, I could be wrong, you guys maybe have done different research, but I think we're still a ways out from having the legal pressure to do this. But you're right, talking about how other countries have gone in this direction and bringing that fear to us that, you know, the legal piece of this is gonna influence us, we better be ahead of the curve, I do think is a compelling argument. Overall, and then the only other piece of this is, you really do have to compare apples to apples in your financials. So, you know, I spent too much time trying to figure out what 2.26 bottles and what that amortized cost was going to be over the bottles, and then adding in the marketing and stuff. So you got to tell me what it's going to cost per bottle. That's just, it's an easy math if you have all the inputs, but you know, don't make your audience figure it out, because they care. You know, you told them you're taking that much out per bottle, how much you adding back, and there is cost per bottle. Other than that, you know, again, really great dynamic presentation. You were engaging, eye contact, I thought was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of good feedback. It's
Yes.
always hard to go after her. But, no, it's very good. Definitely thought you guys were fantastic as far as your presentation skills and keeping us engaged. I think the only thing I could really add to, maybe just a little tip, like I noticed in this example how just Fiji in the middle, it looks like maybe they've wrapped around a couple of bottles. So that might be an opportunity to still get the label in there, right, is the bigger packaging. It's harder to sell, but then that would get, maybe, just throw this in to get it more recognized, and then, you know, that could be an opportunity. And then the other piece, so when we asked you guys questions, you really thought it out, right? You guys talked about how you discussed it and did that. So maybe think about the questions that we're asking, and you had great answers, but maybe you could put some of that into the slide to just even prevent the question in the first place, which it's good to have an answer, but sometimes you can, by doing that ahead of time, you can eliminate the question altogether.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you go first? Do you want to go
Sure.
after them?
I'm going to end after
Okay.
him.
All right, go right
Oh,
ahead.
Okay.
Jeff's gonna.
So
They didn't
first of
forget
all-
about you this time.
that?
They didn't forget.
Well, they messed with my order, right?
Well, first of all, the energy you presented was really nice. You were very calm, you were very focused, and you also were a good team in passing things off. I thought that was really well done.
Thank
So,
you.
really. What I would suggest, I think, first of all, I think the legal issue is a major one. I think those regulations are coming, and they're coming quickly. Because the numbers coming out about the contamination in water and what we're drinking is becoming more and more of a positive, basically a major issue that will change things. And I did like that you talked about the class action lawsuit, but I think it's even a larger one, that for them to reduce the legal risk down the road, this is a very proactive step that they should be taking now. So I think that's it. I think that, I know it's gonna be hard, but unless you have some, with this type of presentation, some consumer evidence that they would be okay with that, they would do it. And maybe you have older people who are stuck in their ways, and the younger people say, yes, we wanna do this, and they're the ones who you're marketing to. And then TikTok and so forth makes sense, because a lot of older people don't even know what that means, except a clock. So to give us some idea that consumers, and maybe even to have talked to a few consumers and get some quotes from them, but something like that. Without that, it just doesn't, it feels like you're telling us this will work. And I'm going, I'm the director, I have fiduciary duty, and you're not able to basically undermine my fears. So that, and then the weakest part for me was the one on ethics. Now that's obviously my love, but they didn't tie into core values or things. You just told us how good we were, which I really like being told we're good. I think Lisa got that perfect. So I like that part, but I didn't see the ethics tying into it, and some of the basic concepts about core values or who the stakeholders are. They wouldn't have taken that much more, but it would have made it say, you guys, you're already saying you're an ethical company, and here's a way of doing it. So that's the other thing. But overall, I was very impressed with the presentation, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm good. I'm good to go. I was challenged by feedback. So first of all, absolutely. You were, it was hard for me not to smile because you answered every question posed to you, and you did it with, you really were calm about it. I don't know that any of us getting questions fired at us can always respond as well as you did it. I thought you did a really, really great job with that. You are probably some of the best salespeople I've ever seen. You know, you to sell me. I was in sales and now in fundraising. To sell me because of your passion and your response, boy, you did well, because I am really hard to be sold to. So I thought that was really good. The presentation was good. It was engaging. I have to agree with my colleague Arthur as far as ethics goes. What you did, your sales presentation was great, and you did a good job by saying, well, you're already doing this, but what am I doing? What is my ethical code of conduct that's on the website? What am I doing? Because yes, I'm supposed to know. I'm a member of the board of directors. I should know. I know what we say we do, but how does that relate to what we're really doing? If as a consulting company you can tell me that and go beyond that, you've just differentiated our company from a lot of the other ones. So what I want to know is why. You told me we're already ethical. What are we doing right? How can we improve? Back to what Arthur suggested, what are the other stakeholder groups involved? So beyond me and beyond the consumer, who else are we going to? The environment is also an incredible stakeholder. So maybe a little bit more of that as well. But I thought you did great. And then the marketing piece, yeah, that bothered me a little bit, because having gone through all those demographics, I am in an interesting demographic myself. Water is a product that everybody uses, and I don't care how old or how young you are. Everybody uses water. So just focusing on the social media, that bothered me a little bit, because just like Arthur, this wasn't a presentation where you had to address the marketing issues, but when you're looking at finances, I felt like there wasn't as much recognition of the big picture, because we can't just look at what we've done before. We have to look at the bigger picture. You're asking us to go outside of our box. What might that cost us to do that? Other than that, I thought it was amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just,
Wait, one more.
Wait,
so
we have Jeff.
all I want to
We
do
got
is
the
a little
boss
bit
in here.
for tomorrow, which piggybacks
Yeah.
on what Arthur and Lisa said. So tomorrow, you're going to be brought back to the board, and they just want to talk more about the ethics. Have you talk more about that? That's kind of the convention. And one way to think about it is that the SDGs are not ethical values. The SDGs are a strategy and a set of tactics to deliver on profound human needs, which respond to areas of values and responsibilities that Arthur and Lisa were reflecting on. So if you think about responsible production and consumption, why is this company responsible to responsible production and consumption? Is it because people have a right to a clean environment and the disposal of single-use plastics is compromising that? Is it because these end up in landfills and they compromise the water quality and the air quality of the people who live near these places, and it's a question of environmental justice? Is it that we have a set of values as an organization, and not being fully responsible for the entire value chain of our product, the life cycle of our product, means that we are not fully living up to our values that are core to who we are? Those are the ethical dimensions that propel a company to recognize its responsibility to responsible production and consumption. And if you think about the case competition, it's business ethics and sustainability. So your presentation did so great on the sustainability piece. There's an opportunity to flesh out that ethics piece And perhaps that can be something that you can bring to your presentation tomorrow for your 10-minute presentation as you continue to prepare for these.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet all of you.
It was nice to meet you all as well.